want to confer a particular state recognition. At the same time, there is some need to bring down those barriers.
Lord, that whatever administratively can be done, my lord,
This is, Mr. Solicitor, completely in line with what you were suggesting. An issue like this, the remit is actually with the Parliament or with the executive to take into account. So therefore, we were putting it to you only.
certainly, my lord, and I can assure your lordships, my stand would on this not be adversarial. And my lord, I'll talk to the government, and my lord, whatever best on those human issues, my lord, can be done. My lord, we are not that way, my lord, adversarial in that sense.
So because now after we break today, tomorrow is miscellaneous. Monday, Tuesday, my learned brother Justice Nasma is not in court. So we meet on Wednesday. So you have that time to, come back to us and respond on Wednesday.
Lord, shall I finish this or my lord, or do
No, you wrap up on this now.
Please, please.
And you
Lord, kindly have this,
done
my
it
lord.
in a
I'll just
very-
quickly go through this, my lord.
Let's quickly run through it.
There is no fundamental right to get all types of social relationships like marriage recognized and registered. There is no fundamental right. Well, that's the thirst and respectful, Lord, very emphatic submission on my part. Then Article 14 argument, Lord, while challenging the Special Marriage Act, they say the Special Marriage Act is violative of Article 14, Lord, to which I say, Article 14 applies when government has created a mechanism for different classes, though they are same or vice versa, which is not the case here. Or act has no nexus with the object it seeks to achieve. These are the two ground, my lord, for Article 14, my lord. We may call it arbitrariness, we may call it by any other name, but broad categories are this. My lord, here the Special Marriage Act is only for heterosexuals. And that's what, my lord, the debate also clearly show, and the language and architecture also clearly show.
Yes.
And the object is intra-faith and interfaith, intercaste marriage. And it seeks to achieve that, my lord, and there is no provision contrary to that. So, when you want recognition of a particular class of people in a particular class of relationship, it cannot be said that the other class legislation is violative of Article 14. Well, that's the submission. Now, petitioner want a new class to be created. I have already made submissions for an entirely new object, which was never conceived at the time of, my lord, enactment. Now, my lord, there is no positive obligation on the state to recognize every social or personal relationship. There are a large number of relationships in the society. All need not be recognized. As a matter of fact, well, this is something very, very crucial. The state should be very slow in recognizing the relationship, because state is entering into the arena of socio-personal relationships. It can recognize only when it finds that legitimate state interest requires regulating them. And you can regulate only if you recognize them. So marriage also in heterosexual, ideally, should not have been regulated. But the society felt that you can't permit people to marry at any age. You can't permit people to marry as many times as they want. You can't people to stay together for 10 years and without reason part ways.
Yeah.
You can't stay together for 10 years and part ways. And therefore, marriage was recognized with a clear legislative policy that it would be heterosexual, and regulation followed. So, my lord, the point is that there is no obligation for the state to recognize each and every social relationship.
Yes.
Then, choice of a sexual partner is a fundamental right. Right to get legal recognition of such partnership is not a fundamental. Then there is an intelligible differential between heterosexual and homosexual persons, as constituent units in both the classes are different. Heterosexual, my lord, has constituent units which are, my lord, of opposite sex, and homosexuals as a separate class has a different constituent. So it's not, my lord, that unequals are treated equally or equals are treated unequally. That's not the position. My lord, for example, zinc and brass both can be metals. No one is inferior, no one is superior. But they are treated separately. That's as simple as that. Then Article 14, 15 and 21 can be invoked only if law imposes prohibition on homosexual couples in their freedom of choosing sexual orientation and exercising their right in privacy, and not on heterosexual couples. If they say that heterosexual couples are permitted and we are prohibited, then, my lord, possibly 14, 15, 21 may come into play. Now, classification is based upon the nature of relationship and not on the basis of sexual orientation of individuals. Both, my lord, in Hindu Marriage Act as well as in the Special Marriage Act, the pith and substance is the nature of relationship, not your sexual orientation. And therefore, I say Article 14 prohibits class legislation and not classification per se. What we have done, what the legislature has done is classification which has intelligible differentia. Both are, my lord, different. Then Transgender Persons Protection Act provides for an affirmative classification in favor of one class mentioned in section 2K to protect Article 14, 15, 19 and 21 rights of all categories of LGBTQIA plus persons. Lord, if I show your lordships broadly the scheme of this act, Lord, first of all, transgender, the way in which we understand in colloquial parlance, which is equivalent to eunuch, general, that's not the way it is defined. But for a second, if your lordships can just have a act, my lord. It covers all spectrums and shades, which, my lord, I have described yesterday, 2K. Does your lordship get 2K? Please see, my lord, widely worded, and I'll just read, my lord, the headings of the section. Transgender person means a person whose gender does not match with the gender assigned to that person at birth. This is the conventional, traditional understanding.
This is the first part, and then the second part is the inclusive part of it.
Yes, my lord. And includes, it widens the scope, trans man or trans woman, within bracket, whether or not such person has undergone sex reassignment surgery or hormone therapy or laser therapy or such other therapy. Natural as well as artificial, both. Person with intersex variations. Gender queer and person having such socio-cultural identities as Kinnar, Hijras, that is again, Lord, the conventional understanding of the term transgender. In between, my lord, every other spectrum is created, and Lord, gender queer and person with intersex variations include all categories. And just have a look at, my lord, prohibition against discrimination.
But, Mr. Solicitor, everybody who is an L or a G, the lesbian or the gay community, they're not transgenders.
They would be gender queer.
No.
Lord,
No, Mr. Solicitor. Somebody who is gay is not a person whose gender varies from what is assigned at birth.
Yes.
Their gender is exactly what is assigned at birth.
He is a man, my lord.
Born a man and continues to be a man. Born a woman and continues to be a woman. So they are not transgenders, therefore.
Lord, even bisexuals are not.
Undertaking can be given, we can give an undertaking with that effect.
क्या बोला, sir?
It's not correct, Mr. Solicitor.
What did Mr. Kripal say?
I am not disputing. I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing.
Yeah.
Lord, L, G, B, then we are on T.
Right.
T is transgender. I say transgender, colloquially understood, is similar to, my lord, Kinnar or he. Anyway, don't get...
No, Mr. Solicitor, you may be right in this, that the definition of transgender in this act covers the entire spectrum of
Spectrum, that's
transgender,
all I'm saying. I'm not, my lord,
but covers the entire spectrum of transgenders. But yet, the community of gays and lesbians is completely distinct from the transgender population.
It does not cover the entire class.
Yeah,
I mean, if you
exactly.
put them all as one class, LGBT,
It's not an interchangeable.
they're not there.
Lord,
Clarify, I don't want to. There's
Lord.
transgender as opposed to that is cisgender.
CI.
Right.
So that is the distinction.
And sexual orientation.
So a cisgendered person cannot be a transgender.
Exactly.
And sexual orientation.
My lord, the definition is this, my lord. Definition is this. Of course, this question doesn't fall for consideration, but definition I'll just read, my lord. Gender queer, denoting or relating to a person whose gender identity does not correspond to the conventional binary gender distinctions. Anything outside male, female, or male, female, but having a different feeling than what he is assigned. That's how I have understood. My lord, I may be wrong, I may be right. My lord, I don't claim to be an expert on this subject, my lord. But this is a very widely worded subject.
Cisgender means the gender which
The gender outside the
Cis-
binary.
no. See,
Cisgender, this is what
cisgender is the
the-
gender you are born with,
With.
all right? The gender which you are assigned at birth. Now, I'm not talking of the entirety. There may be some variations. We're not talking of exceptions, aberrations, not aberrations, sorry, but some exceptions and variations. As a principle, lesbians belong to the cisgender category because there's no variation between the gender with which they were
Their
born.
feeling maybe is different. That
There's no
only-
reassignment or there's no question of assuming a different gender later. Therefore, they don't fall in the T of the transgender bill at all or the transgender act at all.
That, my lord,
They're a completely
man
different
trapped
category.
in a woman's body or something. My lord, I read somewhere, my lord, I may be pardoned if it's not a correct word or a bad word. My lord, that's how, my lord, I understood it to be. But, my lord, it's a very widely worded definition of
Of
trans.
course, there you are right. It covers the entire gamut of transgenders.
Yes.
You're right. To that extent, you're absolutely right. But no,
Now, your lordships, my lord, kindly in this context, turn to section 7. My lord, first of all, see the title of 3, prohibition against discrimination. Right? Several kinds of discrimination, employment, admission, public places, etc., etc. Then recognition of identity of transgender, application for certificate, issue of certificate. Please see 7. That might, my lord, in this context, my lord, assist your lordships. After the issue of a certificate under subsection 1 of section 6, if a transgender person undergoes surgery to change gender either as a male or female, such person may make an application along with a certificate issued to that effect by the medical superintendent or chief medical officer of the medical institution in which that person has undergone surgery to the district magistrate for revised certificate. He can undergo a surgery and male becomes female, female becomes male. That obviously, my lord, based upon genitals. And thereafter, my lord, the first certificates is now provided to be changed as per the provisions under section 7. He gets a new certificate as per his new gender identity.
Solicitor, if really the concerns of the gay and lesbian community had to be addressed, possibly, I'm just thinking aloud, possibly a legislation specific to that, as it has come for transgenders, would have addressed the issue. But it can't, those concerns will not be addressed in the Transgender Persons Act. That is the only problem.
My lord, the stigma essentially, my lord, historically and socially is with regard to transgenders. My lord, there are several persons who belong to either G or L in, my lord, LGBTQ. But they are not, my lord, that way stigmatized or getting any problem with
they were
the...
very badly stigmatized.
Yes, stigmatized.
In fact, the parliamentary debates on the 1954 Act itself shows, that there was a considerable degree of social stigma attached to it. Or even the
Not
LGBT.
comparable to transgenders. My lord.
No, you see, if it is known, why is it that people were not coming out, apart from 377?
My lord,
There was a
again, my
social
lord, we are entering into a debate which possibly this forum is not meant for. Your lordship needs
certainly not.
assistance, my lord. What is
No,
what?
this is arising from what you said. It is arising from the fact that the Parliament did take a good and a long step